So hey guys, this is Varish here, and today we are going to continue our chapter Nutrition in Plants Day 2. So this is our first chapter in Biology, Nutrition in Plants Day 2. So if you haven't checked Day 1 video, please visit our YouTube channel, The Learning Arcade, and check it out. So in the previous video, Nutrition in Plants Day 1, we have discussed about cells and plant cells. So we have discussed that living organisms have cells, and then we discussed about plant cells because our chapter is basically based on plants. So in this video we are going to talk a lot more about living organisms. So we know that every living organism has cells. So we know that every living organism has cells, and then we divided the living organisms based on the number of cells, and we even saw the basic structure of a plant cell. Now we know that living organisms have many cells, but what is the difference between living and non-living things? Let's see them over here. What is the biological difference between these two? Let's see. Now first, living things have life. So living organisms have life, that's for sure. That's why they are called living. Next, living organisms have life processes that enable life. So life is such a complex thing, and then for that to happen, there need to be some complex processes which enable it. So life processes are these complex processes that enable life, and these processes occur in the living organisms. And then living organisms are made up of cells, the tiniest units, as we have discussed in our first video. So here are a few examples of living organisms. This tall giraffe, and this plant, and this cheetah or a leopard, these are living organisms. Giraffe, plant, and animals, etc. So living organisms basically have life, and that's why they are living. And for life to be enabled, there are life processes, and then they are made up out of cells. Now let's see the non-living things, because non-living things are exactly the opposite. Non-living things do not have life. Non-living, so no life. So they do not have cells. Because they don't have life, and every living organism is made up of cells, they won't have any cells. And because they don't have any life, they won't have any life processes. They're just made up of simple atoms and molecules, like we discussed in chemistry. Now this is a watch, as you can see over here. This is a table, and over here this is water. These are all non-living things. So living things have life, non-living things do not have life. Living things have cells, they are made up of cells. Non-living things are not made up of cells, they are just made up of atoms and molecules, as we discussed in chemistry. And then living organisms are made, they have life processes to enable life, and because there is no life over here, there won't be any life processes. Now let's see these life processes. What are these life processes? Life processes are the processes which enable life. This life is a very complex thing, and there need to be processes for enabling life, and they are called life processes. Now, for all living organisms, there are 7 life processes: nutrition, respiration, circulation, excretion, reproduction, proper synchronization, growth, movement, and development. So we'll take a look into all these life processes. Now nutrition, this is really important, and that's what our chapter is dealing with. Nutrition in plants. How does this life process take place in plants? So nutrition is the intake of food and the breakdown of food to some extent. So food, as we say, is a very complex substance, and it's the substance that gives us energy. So as we know, every process requires energy. So energy is like a fuel, and for energy we need food, and nutrition is the process where we take this food and we break down that food to some extent, because food cannot be broken down completely. It needs the help of important gas, oxygen, and that's what is respiration. Now, if respiration takes in oxygen, this important gas called oxygen, it takes in. So respiration takes in oxygen, and the remaining food, it the smallest particle or the energy particles, and these energy particles are called ATP, or the full form of them is adenosine triphosphate. So nutrition, food is taken, and then it's breakdown till some extent. So it's broken down till some extent, and then the respiration process takes place where oxygen is taken in and then it's sent to the cells, and that's where food is broken down to ATP molecules or energy molecules. Basically, you can call ATP adenosine triphosphate. Next comes circulation. The circulation, it transports everything. It's a transportation system. So for the food to reach the cells, the circulatory system does. Then for the oxygen to reach the cells, the circulatory system does, because it needs to reach the cell, and that's where it can be broken down. And then this is a chemical process, so it gives up cellular waste, and that has to be removed to our body. So this one, even circulation, it sends it to the excretory organs or the removal organs, the organs which remove the cellular waste. These all tasks are done by circulation, and then excretion comes. So this cellular waste has to be removed, or else it becomes toxic. Now there are many cellular wastes like water, salt, sometimes it's removed as sweat, and then comes urea, which is removed as urine, and then carbon dioxide, which is mostly important because when food is broken down, that's the byproduct, another byproduct, and it has to be removed. So that's even done by respiration. And then reproduction comes. Reproduction is an important life process that is used for producing offsprings. Now, for producing species of the same kind, it's reproduction. So this reproduction happens when the male balls and the female balls, they come together, and that's a different process entirely. Now, proper synchronization. Now, for all these processes to happen, as you know, in your human body, there needs to be brain control and then proper hormone balance. So this is all proper synchronization, and then comes growth. Now, all living organisms grow. And then movement. Movement is also called locomotion. And then development. Development of living organisms is also a very important life process. So these are the 7 life processes. Nutrition, where you take in food and break it down till some extent. And then respiration, where you take O2 and then it's broken down, the food is broken down to form adenosine triphosphate molecules, and then the carbon dioxide, which is other byproduct, it's also removed through respiration, and all the transportation of all these particles happens through this process called circulation. And then the cellular waste is removed through excretion, and then reproduction produces offsprings, and then there is proper synchronization of the body, of the brain, correct sending of correct signals, and then hormone balance, etc. And then growth, movement, and development. These are the life processes. So here you can see this is the digestive system where nutrition life process takes place, and then this is the urinary system or the renal system. As you can see, this is a part of the excretion process, and then this is the respiratory system for respiration, and then this is the circulatory system for circulation. Now, food. Coming to food, food contains energy, and we know that food contains energy. That's why we consume it. That's the whole point of consuming food. And then nutrition deals with the intake of food and breakdown of food, because food is too complex, and we know that food is too complex. So for breaking it down, we have nutrition. And then food contains various nutrients. Food contains various nutrients which are required for various purposes, and then intake of these nutrients is called nutrition. That's where the complete word is derived from. And then there are 5 nutrients. The carbohydrates, as you can see from the word carbo, it gives us carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So it's made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. and then it gives us energy. That's the whole point of carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are the nutrients which you need to have in a larger quantity. And then there are different forms of carbohydrates. Sugars, you can see, and the basic sugar or glucose sugars, starch and cellulose sugars can be of different types: glucose, lactose, maltose, etc. So the basic glucose molecule is C6H12O6, and then that is too complex. So you need to imagine how carbohydrates are very complex. And then there are starch and cellulose. Then comes the proteins, which are nitrogenous substances which are used for bodybuilding. Fats, which give us energy, and extra fats are stored under the skin for controlling the body temperature. Then comes the vitamins and minerals, which are really effective, which help in curing the damaged parts, which help in resistance of the body, etc. And then along with that, roughage and water need to be taken. Water, we know, has many uses, and this roughage of fiber has an important task. For the digestive system or the nutrition process to take place smoothly, this roughage is the man of the job. So nutrition, as we know, is the intake of food and breaking down to some extent for energy. There are two types of nutrition: autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition is the mode of nutrition in which organisms prepare their own food and feed themselves and even the rest of the living world. Now, for food, you eat food, and then you don't prepare food from your body, right? The plants give you food. The plants give you the fruits. So they have the autotrophic nutrition. So, plants also cannot live without food. They need food and you need food. They can prepare food. You can't prepare food. So they prepare food for the whole world. So plants are the ones which prepare food for the whole world. So they are autotrophs. They have autotrophic nutrition because they prepare their own food, they feed themselves, and they feed the rest of the living world. So you can see from the word auto, which is self, trophos, and nourishment, that is nourishment. Examples of these autotrophic nutrition are plants, algae, cyanobacteria, chemosynthetic bacteria, etc. Heterotrophic nutrition. Now we know autotrophic nutrition prepare their own food and feed themselves and the rest of the living world. Heterotrophic nutrition is the exactly opposite. Heterotrophic nutrition is the mode of nutrition in which organisms depend on other organisms for food. They do not prepare their own food. Instead, they depend on other organisms for food. And the word heterotrophic is derived from the word hetero, which means others, and trophos, which means nourishment. So all humans, almost all bacterium, animals, fungus, birds, reptiles, etc. are heterotrophic. So we know that there are two types of nutrition: autotrophic nutrition, in which plants prepare their own food, and heterotrophic nutrition, in which organisms depend on other organisms for food. So here you can see this is the food chain. And so the sun's energy. Sun is the ultimate source of energy because that's where plants or the autotrophs prepare their food. Without sun, the food can't be prepared. So sun is the ultimate source of energy. And then from that, the energy is flowing through the plants, and the plants are preparing food. And this energy is flowing to the primary consumers or the herbivores, like the elephants, the deer. They all eat plants. And then energy from there is flowing through the secondary consumers, the carnivores or the omnivores. So it's all a flow of energy. It's called food chain. So food chain is a flow of energy. Like you see over here, a plant is a grasshopper. It's eaten by a rat, it's eaten then by a mongoose, then by an eagle, and when an eagle dies, it's decomposed by decomposers. So food chain is just the transfer of energy, and then many food chains come up together to form a food web. So in this video, we talked about the difference between living and non-living things, and then we even know about autotrophic and heterotrophic nutrition, and we know about the food chain. So till now we know about the plant cells, about living organisms, non-living organisms, life processes, nutrition, autotrophic and heterotrophic nutrition, the food chain and the food web. Now in our next video we'll enter into the main concept of a chapter, how do plants prepare their own food. So thank you for watching this video. We'll continue the chapter in the next video. Until then, bye.